Welcome back everyone to another part of my What If series, What If the Saiyans Defeated Frieza. In the last video, part 2, King Vegeta had visions of Kakarot and Vegeta and their fight against Frieza. He was able to do this due to learning the abilities from the 𝚘𝚙𝚙𝚒𝚘𝚙, a race with mind-reading and future-seeing powers. In the original story, Frieza discovered the 𝚘𝚙𝚒𝚒𝚘𝚙 first, thus episode of 𝙲𝚘𝚙𝚑𝚗. However, in this story, King Vegeta discovers them before Frieza, and was able to invade and research them without the Frieza/Cold Force finding out. Due to this, the king spoke with 𝙲𝚘𝚑𝚗 and found out he was the father of the Saiyan he saw in his vision with Vegeta. Not only that, he found out 𝙲𝚑𝚗 had accidentally received psychic abilities during the invasion of 𝚘𝚙𝚙𝚑, and so not only is Frieza a situation to worry about, but now the king sees him as a potential threat as well. But anyway, after a discussion between the two, circumstances led them both to keep Frieza's decision to blow up the planet a secret, although for two entirely different reasons. I can't go over all the details from the previous parts, but in case you missed them or are confused during certain parts of this video, I'll leave both part 1 and 2 in the description below, and once you're caught up, you can come right back to this video. But with all of that being said, it's time to continue where we left off. It's been a few years since the king spoke with 𝙲𝚘𝚗, and things have gotten nowhere for the most part. As far as plans go, the visions haven't been showing signs of any of them actually working. As for 𝙲𝚘𝚗, things have been going as you'd expect. He continues to train, but he knows he isn't nearly strong enough to handle Frieza, especially after learning about the fact he has multiple forms. It just seems hopeless, like no matter what they do, they're just fated to be destroyed. However, things are going to change, as on one fateful night lit by the full moon, the Saiyans arrive on a planet named Cereal. It's here the Saiyans invade and overthrow its society, destroying the citizens and their houses left and right, plowing through the buildings and blasting the planet into a wasteland. And among the Saiyans destroying their civilization was 𝙲𝚗𝚗. During the raid, he notices a cerulean child running for his life towards a building. 𝙲𝚗𝚗 goes after him, initially expecting to stomp him out like the rest. But when he arrives, he sees the boy being held in his mother's arms. It's here the events play out just like the original story, with 𝙲𝚗𝚗 reminiscing about his own family and sympathizing with them, causing him to go out of his way to protect them and find them a safe place to hide. But unfortunately, after doing so when he's getting ready to leave, he's forced to stick around, as the same boy, Granola, alerts a mysterious gang wandering near their location. Clearly, 𝙲𝚗𝚗 doesn't want anyone finding out he's going against Frieza's orders by protecting these people, so this causes him to have to be quick on his feet, setting up a fake scenario in which he's getting ready to destroy Granola and his mother. The ploy seems to work for the time being, but 𝚑𝚘𝚗, the leader of the gang, questions his hesitancy in finishing them off. Before he could come up with an excuse, he's quickly given a vision out of nowhere. He sees only a minute from now Granola's mother is about to be shot, showing that his plan fails one way or another. And so, to everyone's surprise, he drops the act immediately, shooting off a blast towards the Heater gang before the vision could come to fruition. And it's here Gas arrives to protect the gang. A fight ensues, but things don't go quite the same as they did in the original. As we all know from the previous part, 𝙲𝚗𝚗's been training to the best of his ability to one day face Frieza, so he's far stronger than he's supposed to be here. He doesn't struggle nearly as much and is able to put up a much better fight from the start. They go blow for blow, fighting almost evenly for a bit. He blocks a powerful kick from Gas, proceeding to grab him by the leg and spin throw him away. He comes down to the ground for a minute to warn 𝚘𝚘𝚗 to leave the area with Granola and his mother. He says he'll defeat Gas and they don't have to stick around nor worry, as they'll only get in the way. However, due to 𝙲𝚗𝚗's unprecedented strength, Gas decided to go all out, transforming immediately, speeding back to the scene, catching 𝙲𝚗𝚗 by surprise and landing a fierce gut punch, sending him flying backwards and crashing into the trees around them. This worries 𝚘𝚘𝚗, causing him to head back towards his home and search for the 2 Dragon Balls he's been hiding. He wants to use the dragon to send him home, as he believes he's already done enough to protect them. However, after failing to convince him to flee the planet through the use of the dragon, he asks if there's any other wish he could grant, as he only wants to help. 𝙲𝚗𝚗, being preoccupied with the fight at hand, is a bit annoyed with this, but understands it's with good intention, and so he thinks. He wonders what he'd want to wish for. Initially, he was going to blow the wish off by just asking for his sons to thrive or whatever, but he already knows Kakarot will face Frieza one day, and that's enough for him, so he thinks of something else. Actually, the wish could be very useful if done right. This could be the answer he and the king are looking for, and so, after a bit of thinking, he finally comes to a good one. He wishes for more time to train and defeat Frieza. The dragon, of course, does not alter Frieza's plans by making him postpone his decision, or technically his and Beerus's decision, but he grants the wish another way. The dragon gives him the knowledge and whereabouts of a room of time, a place where he can get years worth of training within only a few days. And with this, the dragon takes its leave. 𝙲𝚗𝚗𝚗 is satisfied along with 𝚘𝚘𝚗𝚗, but before anything, he has to finish up his fight with Gas. He powers up to max, determined to get this battle over with, as he wants to make use of the time chamber. He rushes towards Gas, landing a fury of attacks on him, with speed incomparable to Gas as he's unable to counter or do anything about it. He tops this combination of attacks off by kicking Gas into the air and throwing a riot javelin in his direction, with all the power he can muster. Gas tries to block it, but the power overwhelms him and ends up completely vaporizing him. Elec is surprised and distraught to see his strongest memory get destroyed so easily. And out of anger, he tries to land a sneaky gunshot off, but Bardock reacts quickly, dodging the beam and dashing towards Elec, kicking him into the sky. He flies upwards to follow up with the smash attack, sending him back to the ground, immobilizing him completely. Had he not trained as much as he did, the fight between him and Gas could have lasted longer, and things could have been very different. But fortunately, that's not the case here. With everything being settled so quickly, he flies back to Minato and the others, checking to see if they're okay. After he's stanked by them and offered a chance to be healed, he refuses and leaves after telling them to stay out of sight, in case of any other danger. Regardless, Minato won't forget his kindness and what he did for Granola and his mother that day, and so he keeps the scouter that fell off during his battle as a memento. Bardock plans to train in the chamber the dragon informed him about as quickly as possible, and so he takes off making sure there isn't any time to lose. The king, on the other hand, having not been able to come up with any plan to defeat Frieza yet for a couple years now, had almost given up. Even after studying the earth, nothing was accomplished, even though he came to the conclusion that the power Kakarot and his son had in the vision were due to the earth. He can't figure out how, and nothing of use was discovered by the small teams he sent over the years, so he's pretty much given up on that lead, although not completely, and instead has set his sights on something else. He figured if he couldn't think of a plan, he might as well at least make sure his son can carry on his legacy, and have more soldiers at his disposal when he's king. He has a certain crew of Saiyans in mind to accompany his son when he's older, but in the meantime, he continues to wait and think of ways to rebel regardless. He won't do anything stupid to possibly endanger his son's future, but he also won't let Frieza get his way so easily. And while all hope for overthrowing Frieza has been lost, the king is then suddenly given a vision out of nowhere, one of a rampaging Saiyan child. The location seems to be inside a white void, with a mysterious, unfamiliar building near him. This child acts as if he's an Uzaru beast, yet without even needing to transform. And weirdly enough, he sees he himself is also there. He's shown attempting to use an unusual device equipped to his hand, and it seems as if it's connected to the child somehow, calming his rage. There's only one child he could think of that'd possibly act like this with this much power, uncontrollable and a threat to those around him. But what is he doing here? He sent him away years back to planet Vampa. He shouldn't be anywhere near planet Vegeta, much less near such close proximity to the king himself. But regardless of the confusing vision, this does give him an idea. The answer to his problems might have been right under his nose the whole time. His pride in his son wouldn't allow the possibility, but if he could stall the destruction of the planet long enough for Broly to grow into a warrior strong enough, he could use him to save the Saiyans. Only if he can make sure that Broly doesn't use his power against them, that is. The main issue though, is that there's no way he could convince Frieza to postpone his destruction, least of all for a few extra years. It's an almost impossible plan. Not only that, he'd have to come up with some type of way to control Broly, so that he doesn't prove to be a detriment rather than a solution. But with all of this going down, we move back to Bardock. After learning about the time chamber, Bardock plans to visit Earth to make use of it, but he reports back to planet Vegeta first. It's here he goes to find Tora and the others, as he thinks this training would be good for all of them. Despite all his efforts, he's come to the realization that he won't be able to defeat Frieza on his own, especially considering Frieza has multiple forms. Besides, it'd be better to have someone to train with anyway. So who better to ask than one of his own crew? He gathers everyone up one by one and tries to convince them to come along on a trip to Earth, where they could take turns using the chamber to get stronger. Initially, they wonder why they'd even do such a thing, and where did he even learn something like this? Besides, to them, it's not like they really need the training. They're already elite in their own right. But still, he tries to convince them that they should improve regardless, as they never know what could happen. Shugesh questions Bardock as he doesn't really expect them to be on board with this suicide mission against Frieza. Tora suggests maybe he's better off just dropping the idea. He says maybe the prince will be able to overthrow Frieza one day when he's older. After all, he was born with the highest BP recorded to date. So it's better for everyone if they just continue doing missions like they're supposed to. Bardock is angered by this idea. The fact he can see how docile and tame the Saiyans have become under Frieza's rule. He yells at them for their cowardice and refusal to get stronger, but at the same time he also understands if it wasn't for the visions, he likely wouldn't have seen a point in training to do such a thing either, which leaves him to his only option. He begins to tell them the truth. the real reason why he needs to train, and that his decision to rebel against Frieza doesn't come from ignorance. He tells them the real reason the king needed to speak with him that day a few years back, and he talks about the visions and what's supposed to happen in the coming years. The group, as you'd expect, is left bewildered and speechless by this sudden bombshell of bad news. The silence goes on for a time, until 𝚙𝚘𝚙𝚢 breaks it with laughter, saying how Bardock must be playing a good joke on the team. The group also finds the situation a bit funny. I mean, why would Frieza destroy planet Vegeta? The Saiyans do the best work in the Force. They get missions done without fail. But then Bardock explains why. He says that's the reason. It's because they're becoming so capable that Frieza wants to get rid of them. He's afraid of the legend of a possible Super Saiyan, but still, it sounds crazy. 𝚙𝚘𝚙𝚢 questions why he's only telling them now then. How can he expect everyone to believe he's kept it a secret for so long for no reason? As well as the fact that the king knows about Vegeta's fate, but hasn't done anything about it. He tries to explain that the reason he didn't tell them was because he didn't want to cause a panic, so he could train in peace. And for the same reason, the king hasn't warned everyone and has been working to come up with a plan on his own. However, Bardock doesn't care for whatever the king is cooking up. He wanted to find a way to defeat Frieza on his own, but he's come to the realization that with how strong Frieza is, he's not making the right amount of progress with his training. But with their help in the time chamber, it's possible the 5 of them together may stand a chance. Tora and 𝚙𝚙𝚙𝚢 always knew there was more to what Bardock was letting on that day they questioned him. They figured his random devotion to training and stoicism wasn't for no reason. They just never expected it to be due to something like this, and so they all finally allow themselves to believe him. And with little argument, they agree to train with him on Earth. However, with the king's recent research mission on the planet, it'd be a bit difficult to go there without looking suspicious to the Frieza Force. Giving too much attention to the planet without conquering it would look very weird, so they need to find a distraction or at least give a very good reason why so many Saiyans are being sent to Earth without anything being accomplished. Tora suggests if the king knows about everything, maybe he could help them find a distraction. And it would probably be a big help to the king as well, knowing there's a place he or whoever could get years worth of training in a day. Bardock tells them it's not a good idea, as he was ordered not to tell anybody about his visions, as well as not to do anything stupid. So the king would probably be more furious with the group rather than willing to help. But 𝚙𝚘𝚙𝚢𝚙 scoffs at this, and believes Bardock should be already at the king's level by now. If anything, the past years of his intense training should be worth that much. Everyone looks at Bardock and wonders the same thing. Shouldn't there have been an exchange of rank by now? Or at the very least a confrontation between the two? And so they question him, waiting for a response. And with that, the video comes to a close. And in the next part, we'll finally see questions being answered, and the true start to Planet Vegeta's fate being changed. But for now, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.